Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon to Architect Wan Sophia Wan Ishak, Chairperson of PAM CPD Committee, Architect Mumtazah Mustajab, Chairperson of PAM CRR Committee, learned and distinguished speakers and presenters. Welcome to PAM Online Series, CSR Journey, the Design of Quarantine Centers Edition 2. This is collaboration between PAM CPD Committee and PAM CSR Committee for PAM Online Series Season 2. Let us begin the program for today by offering our prayers in any manner of our beliefs to the frontliners whom has stood steadfast in the fight against COVID-19, as well as those whom have left us as a result of this COVID-19. Al-Fatiha. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm Architect Mustapha Kamal, Moderator and PAM CSR Committee member. PAM's aim for these two webinars is to highlight and appraise the role of architects during times of emergencies, how even under duress moments of pandemic or any other emergencies, the architects are still performing. We would like to portray the architects are not people in the heavens that only design iconic artifacts. They are human with feelings and will rise to the occasion when the situation warrants. Each and every one of them here, especially to the group of 7 and plus Architect Chan last week, whom are our version of the frontliners, is an amazing breed. They rose and offered something useful within a few hours after it was informed of the specific needs needed during this emergency. Last week, we have listened to 4 of the proposals. So today, we shall be listening to the balanced 3 parties that responded to the call for design of the said quarantine and isolation centers with a special appearance by a mechanical and electrical engineer to speak out about ventilation in these spaces. It is with great honor for me to have Architect Mumtazah Mustajab to give her welcoming remarks. Architect Mumtazah? You're on mute.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Welcome to all PAM members and everybody. My name is Architect Mumtazah and I chair the PAM CSR Committee, which is a Community and Social Responsibility Committee, which was set up early last year in 2019. So last week I have briefly mentioned about our vision in PAM CSR Committee and the setting up of the PAM CSR COVID-19 response team that consists of PAM C19 action units, emergency team, and the PAM C19 advisory and approving team. All throughout MCO, members in these teams have volunteered in preparing ourselves in case we are being called by the government to participate as volunteer architects. So we actually studied, evaluated, researched, analyzed, and prepared reports and of potential designs and buildings while receiving feedbacks from local and international organizations and communities. Next slide, please. We have designers who propose designs of quarantine centers to the government. So all these within the first week of MCO. Next slide, please. This was last week's slide. So next one. Last week we had, as Architect Mustapha mentioned, last week we had 3 designers presented their ideas, and we even have 1 volunteer architect who was called by the government and actually participated in the setting up of a quarantine center in Sabah. Today we're going to have 3 more presenting their ideas. And also to answer last week's many questions, we have an engineer here too. Next slide, please. But before we move on, I would like to thank all members who have donated in the PAM COVID-19 fund. And we actually have donated the PPE to Hospital Sedang recently. Thank you all. Semoga Allah menambah rezeki kalian. Next slide, please. So please stay tuned and be with us until the end of this session. Next slide. And again, I would like to thank PAM, Mercy Malaysia, PAM CSR Committee, the medical designers, architects and engineers, and architects who have volunteered for this program. It was truly an amazing experience, very educational, very informative, and excellent teamwork. So back to you, Architect Mus.
Thank you very much, Architect Mumtazah. We will now proceed with paper presentations by the invited speakers. But before we do for that, just to inform all participants, please post your questions on the Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen, or if you are following over the FB Live, yours will be on the comments bar. we shall use the voting method, meaning those questions may have the highest voting gets to be asked on the webinar. Okay, let's just begin. But actually, all these presenters have been posed 3 questions that they have to explain in their design in the most simplest manner in about 7 to 10 minutes. They are as follows: what impressions makes you design the way it is? How it's fitting to the brief or request? How easy is it to construct? And just to let you all know, amongst us is also Associate Professor Architect Datin Norina Muhammad Nawawi, who is also the subject matter expert, and she will later speak about something which is very interesting and also very informative for us. Let us begin with the first presenter, Architect Hani Fauzianna Ahamad, Principal of Health Facility Planning, Mediconsult Sdn Bhd. Please welcome Architect Hani.
Okay, thank you, AR Mustapha. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. Oh, okay, I need someone to make me unable to share the screen because it seems like I've been disabled.
Okay, you can proceed.
Okay, right. Share. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Okay, first of all, I would like to give my special thanks to CSR Emergency Architects, AR Mumtazah especially for to convince me to join the team. Also, thanks to my partner, Architect Caroline Sim, who are not able to be around with us today. Okay, so this exercise for the quarantine center is a joint venture between Mediconsult, PAM, Mercy, and several other architects as well. See, so this is my turn this week to explain about our proposal. We received the design brief from PAM, which called for a field hospital to house the emergency as an emergency holding to house the person under investigation or PUI and a symptomatic patient for COVID-19. We actually selected option 1, which is to construct a temporary structure within the 7 days. We made our assumption. You see, so we are looking into the patient profile in our designing, which it should be able to house only confirmed positive COVID-19 who has no symptom or mild symptom. There should be no pre-existing illness. There should be a low risk as well. So that is on the patient side. And then in terms of design criteria, because you're looking into fast construction, so it should be modular, scalable, easy to construct, and also functional at the same time. You see, at that point of time, when the proposal, been asked, the government hospitals still be able to cater the COVID-19 positive patient. So this exercise actually looking for the so-called emergency scenario in the case that there's a sudden surge in the positive cases where the government hospital will not be able to cope any longer. So that's why we are coming with the proposal just in case that there's a need to build the quarantine center or the field hospital, so that this isolation or the quarantine center can isolate those with the, like I said before, a mild symptom. Then the hospital can concentrate and give a treatment to more severe cases. Okay, we did a bit of research from the internet. So like isolation where there's a proper segregation between the staff, patient, dirty and clean. So same goes to this field hospital. It's just that in a larger scale. You see, we provide a proper transit or transfer zone. This is where most of the health screen will be conducted before this patient actually being sent into the patient zone. And then there's also dedicated staff quarters and management zone as well. So in this case, where the field hospital is huge, it will be, extended support facilities that normally been constructed as well. You see, in this photo, you can see clearly that it's been seated just next to the car park. So in the case that they require expansion, so it's easily buildable, you see. So our proposal is based on the 5 meter by 10 meter modular marquee tents. And then we are proposing to just construct, the timber structure with metal roofing to link between these modular marquee tent. So our proposal of planning is very straightforward, very simple. We are not even actually addressing into the PAM need statement, because we are just looking, because we know that this quarantine center is supposed to be a support center to the government hospital. We are looking into just a mild symptom, but they are positive. So our, segregation of the space, we are looking into having a proper, entry and exit, so that all patient and staff is properly screened upon entry. And then we also provide the support facilities, which consists of the management office, so the staff change for the staff, also the meal preparation area, the supply storage, a small satellite lab and pharmacy, so that any simple blood test can be conducted daily, and also a staff rest and prayer for the staff lah. Okay, and then on top of that, we also create a patient zone in modular. So you can see there's actually a 6 number of marquee tents. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you look into the planning on the left side, you see upon entry, the staff would can just go straight using the airlock, going through the staff working area, and then entering their beds at the patient zone. But the staff need to go through a proper gowning. You see. Okay, if I reverse back, so upon entry, so you have the stage 1 screening. Yes, and then after that, they go through the second stage gowning. Then the staff can move and proceed into treating the patient within the stage 3 patient entry area. And then after, the scheduling for the staff already ended, so they can go through the stage 4, which is doffing, and then exit from that treatment area. So it's just a simple proposal from us. Okay, so in case in future, if the case goes, beyond that what we have designed, we also cater for the phase 2 expansion. Bear in mind, because we are treating COVID-19 patient, there are also contaminated, items or some dirty instruments that we need to sanitize. So we also provide the equipment cleaning and housekeeping zone. You see, and also some waste to handle the clinical waste and also the domestic waste collection. So this is the massing, where you can see the main patient and staff entrance. There's a support facilities, the ward modules. You see, in this case, we only provide 2. And then equipment cleaning, housekeeping, and also the waste management and the waste collection, near that. Okay, immediately after that exercise, I've noticed that WHO has introduced an online course related to COVID-19 issues, you see. So they introduced this severe acute respiratory infection treatment facility design in several languages. So it's not just limited to, English. There are other languages as well, like, if not mistaken, like Mandarin, in also in, Spanish, Russian. So everyone who are interested to know in details, you see, about how we are supposed to design this treatment center, you can just go online And then after you completed these 3 modules, you would receive the confirmation of participation like what I did so on the 4th of April. So you can just go to openwho.org. And then immediately after attending that course, I was tasked to look into retrofitting of the Stadium Negeri Kuala Terengganu. Unlike A.R. Chan, he managed to design and build one. I think I am more fortunate because I just designed, but then, because the things is still within control by MOH and by our government hospital, so there is no need to retrofit this stadium. So the site is just located in front of the COVID-19 admitting hospital, which is Kuala Terengganu Hospital. So this is the view of the stadium itself. This is, if you look at the view B, view B is from here. So this is the main entry to the stadium. There's an open large car park. This is the stadium, and then they're having a lower ground floor or the basement car park. This is the interior that I managed to get from the internet. Okay, this is my proposal. You see, just like what I mentioned before, like before it's a field hospital, so it's an open space. So it's quite easy for you to arrange things in module and in sequence. But doing the retrofit, you need to look into the existing space allocation, how we are actually able to, handle this ventilation issue at the same time. So if you look into the planning, on the right side, the Anjong is the main entrance to the stadium. So it's slightly elevated, which is good as well, because this is where it's easy for you to actually control the entry. For this Anjong, my approach is that I allow only the patient entry from this side, and also the clean linen delivery and also the drug delivery. Staff and logistic, they will go through another entrance. You see, so that it's easy for the hospital staff, I presume, should be stationed here to look after the patient. So upon entry, you can find a waiting area for the patient while waiting to be, triage and also taken some samples. So then upon admission, they will go through, before admission, they will go through the airlock. So this airlock, if it's ever been
2 minutes, Hani. 2 minutes.
Huh?
2
only
minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, sure. Only left like 2 slides. You see, so upon entry, so we need to build, some walling to, segregate between so-called the clean and also the patient area. So these are the patient cluster. So which in overall, I think can fit around 120 over. So then they have their own, a patient toilets, a dedicated patient toilet. These are all existing. So will not be used and mixed use by the staff, but only for the patient. So it's quite very straightforward and a very clean, flow. And at the same time, I actually created an airlock from the top, if you can see. So this is for the food distribution, and I consider this as a clean corridor. You see, so food delivery comes from the main entrance going around the stadium. They would do, some sorting behind and then deliver it from the top. So whatever waste or dirty item that they want to, remove it from the internal stadium, they will go through the bottom doors. You see, so there's a proper airlock that I propose as well. Okay. I think maybe we can run through. Okay, this is the patient module that I propose for every patient. So it comes with a curtain and also a drywall partition and the standard cubicles and cabinets. This is the basement floor that I've mentioned just now. So if ever the stadium will be retrofit, so the staff can park their car, and the entry comes from coming from the basement. So they will go through these 3 staircases, walking up and then they would reach, you see, this particular staircase, and there's a proper airlock, proper gowning and doffing area before they enter the patient space, the patient treatment space. At the same time, on the first floor, but then they have to use the staircase, the internal staircase. They would, go up to the squash court area that later I actually proposed to be their staff rest and staff prayer. There's also a toilet, a male toilet, a female toilet, and big meeting room, which can be transformed into the office administration as well. I think that's about it. Okay, thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful, Hani. So next, we will now continue with the next presenter, Architect Nik Amirul Faiz, partner and co-founder of Hedrel and Nik Architects. Please welcome Architect Nik.
Okay, Bismillah. Hold on, let me just, I need to time myself, yeah? Not more than 10 minutes. Okay, Bismillah, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nik Amirul Faiz from Hedrel and Nik Architects. Okay, today I'll be presenting our proposal, which we did on the quarantine center, organized by PAM and Mercy Malaysia. Okay, firstly, we would like to thank you, PAM, specifically Rida, who roped us in, and then we were invited to join the CSR committee. Okay, so thank you to Mercy Malaysia as well for organizing this with PAM. It's an honor to participate with all the experienced and senior architects and medical planners as well as engineers on board. Okay. Okay, so just a brief introduction of us. We are a young firm, very eager and determined. We like to challenge conventions with experiences in commercial, residential, mixed development projects. A bit of background of us. My partner had direct experience in a project of a health facility, health training facility, right, during his employment period. And we recently did a private hospital proposal end of last year. So, jumping straight into the proposal, when we first received the brief on the evening, Sunday evening, we were told to come up with a proposal the next morning. So it was very unique circumstance, I would say, in the sense that, you know, if we imagine ourselves in a running track, an architect given a brief to design, it's like running an 800-meter running track. This was a purely 100-meter dash. So there was no time to pause, no time to, you know, relax, straight away onto the drawing board. Okay. So regardless, we took time to digest the brief and straight away work on a proposed solution. We were given two options. So one being one day within 24 hours. The other is 7 to 14 days construction period. So we actually opted for the latter. So the program and parameters were given, and the following was the outcome, right? So our first response was on the site selection. So at that moment, the government haven't announced the gazetted sites meant for the quarantine centers yet. So our response, therefore, was to occupy and build on the open car park areas. Very simple reason being that we wanted to use the car park as basis for modules for our designs, right? And easy setting out. So imagine if a team were to come and set up the hospital or the field hospital, it will be done instantly and very quickly, and also instant infrastructure, instant occupation with readily available access and parking areas. So using the car park dimensions as our design basis, the next item was on our chosen method of construction. So nothing pretentious. we straight away adopted the prefabricated approach, right? So using the car park as module, we immediately use as basis for our design. So the prefabricated structures, adopting the block concept, prefabricated off-site and delivered on-site and assembled on-site as well. So steel gypsum boards, GI windows, very simple steel framing, complete with gypsum floors and walls with windows ready. And then the concept is to raise the whole structure on precast concrete stumps for easy placements as well as services installation. And then a simple double deck roof so that we achieve insulation, external protection, as well as finishes all at once. Okay. So a few days into the MCO, this movie went viral, as you all know. So me personally, I was very fortunate to watch it, I think the first few days. And the good thing is it gave us a very brief understanding of how, I mean, what we are facing at the moment. So it's like everything happened like clockwork, you know. Oh, this is happening. Oh, this was in the movie, blah, blah, blah. All right. So that was our inspiration, and we actually took lessons from there, and we straight away wanted to focus on two issues, which was mainly containment as well as our new norm, social distancing. So we after all the research was done, we straight away went to the drawing board. So our focus was to have a clear layering of spaces. So taking the car park as module, as you can see from the sketch, this was our main basis on social distancing approach towards the layout, at the same time in shaping the rooms and spaces onwards. So our focus was to have a clear layering of spaces between clean area moving to the dirty zone, all right? Also known as the containment area. So another important factor was the hierarchy of control, because you need to have screening and transferring from the clean to the dirty areas. All right. So also not forgetting the visual connectivity and wayfinding. So we introduced courtyards between the clean and dirty zone so that people will know and can navigate easily. So this is the outcome of our program, the diagrammatic approach. It's more like a pyramid concept moving from outwards inwards. So a brief walkthrough of, through the building. A public who comes, they will enter from each of the end corners there. And then they will move into the waiting zone. So waiting zone is designed to be as such that it allows social distancing. So you need a very big space for that. Then they will move on to the screening area. So this is where all the airlocks and isolation spaces are placed. So those who are tested positive, they will move in to the central area, which is the contained area, the wards. And we also have allowed for a possible ICU wards also up on the upper level above. So if after one is already treated and they are able to be discharged, they will exit through that corner there. And this corner is meant for frontliners to enter and exit the premise, as well as ambulance drop-off area for positive patients. Okay. So just the idea is that everything is constructed within the 2 weeks. So you have 3 days probably to fabricate it off-site. And then as it goes along, the concrete stumps can be placed on site. with the car park being as a setting out reference. And then modules are placed and hoisted, modules are hoisted in place by cranes. That would take about 5 days, yeah. And then lastly, the services, roofing and finishes all installed. So this was our estimate. Of course, there's an overlapping of sequence. This is a diagram to show our basic component that we felt was very important is this. So to raise it up, it allows for all the M&E services to flow underneath, all right? And lastly, I'll just show you some images of our rendered images. That was the waiting zone. This is the wards, right? So after we actually, this exercise, a group was created and we had a lot of discussion on board. I mooted the idea of having a booklet, some sort of a diagram document for possible pandemic responses in the future. So based on this COVID-19 experience, documented the idea of, this one was on the basis we are occupying an existing facility. So you have to have the outdoor testing area, and then a little more diagram description of how the waiting area can be using social distancing as a guide for layout planning. And most importantly,
1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
And most importantly, all the M&E requirements needs to be at bite-sized bite sizes, so that you can actually mobilize and occupy the premise instantly. And then some more diagrams showing how it will work. Yeah. Okay, so that's all from us. Back to AR Mus.
Thank you very much, Architect Nik. Wow, different style of doing things. So now we'll continue with the next presenter, Ms. Chan Sumin, Senior Associate of RSP Architects Sdn Bhd. Please welcome Ms. Chan.
Sorry, I just unmute. Thank you, Architect Mus. Hello, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed the first two speakers. Mine will be very, very brief. Okay, I am very thankful for Pam inviting RSP for this special CSR journey. And it is our turn to come up with a quick proposal. Like Architect Nik has mentioned, it landed on us on a Sunday. We had a little EOT to submit the next day. But as what it is, I'm the person who connects the dots. And my principal, Hud Abu Bakar, is the person who pressed the button and say, let's go. So anyway, we did a very, very quick study, although it was like quite impossible digesting the design brief. There's so many things to do, zoning and all that. But this is our design philosophy. We understood all these words are so important, you know, to be having a clean zone and to stay healthy and having the ventilation and daylight. And as Architect Nik mentioned, the social distancing is important. So what we did was we chose a modular system, a little bit like Marquee that you can set up very quickly. And this would be laid out on a site which is given to us 45 meters by 90 meters. And our frame span would be 15 meters and it goes on every 6 meters, 7 meters. So the main thing we used was a hollow steel frame. Once we set that up, it could be laid with waterproof covering and providing the transparent panels for daylight. Of course, in a tent like this, it will be a closed tent. So the ventilation and aircon is much needed. What we did was also we proposed a raised floor, and this is where all the M&E will go through. So we went on to also understood that this pop-up field hospital could happen in places like this: the open car park, the open field, basketball, and also in between buildings. So modules are very important. So we studied the zoning, and this is more for patients who are already being tested positive. Hence, this is like an isolation ward, a quarantine ward. So patients will arrive and they will go through their screening, lab tests, and if it is definitely positive, they will go into the ward itself. So of course, with the supporting sectors needed is the staff and management zone, which is in a separate marquee, and also the supporting supplies, medical supplies, storage, and whatnot. So we did a very quick layout, and if we can just zoom in into one. Just take a sip of water. We understood that the patients, they have a patient's corridor because they are the contaminated people. Unfortunately, it's said like that, but they are the ones that we have to keep away from our frontliners, our medical staff. So the medical staff will have the middle corridor, which we call the clean corridor, as normal. In here, I think we had about 15 isolation rooms. And as you can see, the break line, that is for us to continue another module, another 15 rooms if the need arises. We show you a perspective here of what it would look like. It's not very big, it's small, but what the essence is here is for it to be installed very quickly. And the inevitable also comes out from this, that some patients do not make it. And we have an area at the back where the body can be disposed without coming to the front. Ideally, we hope that this will happen in all the sites that's given. Now, I would like to share with you, while we went through the MCO, and this was only the first Sunday in the MCO, and news around the world wasn't good. Yeah, I think you've all heard about the scary figures in Italy, in Spain that went up. And I think our chat group was thinking on a bigger scale. We can have all the pop-up field hospitals, but I think we have to be more prepared. More prepared if our cases go up. So we were looking at a larger building and an existing building as well to refit and convert it into a temporary makeshift COVID-19 hospital. What we have done is we looked at one of our buildings that we completed in November 2016. This is the MyTech Convention Center in Kuala Lumpur. I think you all would have seen it or been to an exhibition in there. We also have to have consent, from NITI and Matrix, who are the landowners and the building owner, before we could propose a refit to change this into a COVID hospital. This convention building has 97,000 square meters, just over 1 million square foot. And we were looking at just 2 floors of it. So I will show you the access first. You can approach MyTech from 2 areas. From the front, the normal Jalan Tutamas Dua Road, and also there is a back lane, and also there is another through the Matrix building. I'll show you the section first, which I think it's easier to understand the building in 3D. Level 1 and 2, there are halls, 3 number of halls, which are 60 meters by 72 meters. And it's not totally column free. There's only one line of column, but they are partitioned into 3 walls with large partition walls. What we are looking here is also to see how many beds we can fit into each hall, so that we can retrofit one hall at one time. And should there be a need to increase, if the numbers go up, we will look at the next hall and the next. Because what the beauty is, we are in an enclosure. Night, day, rain, shine, work can continue. Yeah, I just want to draw you to the attention to the bottom section where we have a loading platform. Now this is quite unique in this building. Every floor and all the exhibition halls can be loaded, unloaded by lorries, big trucks. So we have, later on you'll see on the plan, we'll have a ramp that goes up all the way to the top floor. So every floor, you can have supplies coming in. So we think this is ideal when it becomes a very big case where we have a lot of numbers. Now let me show you the plan on level 1. Okay, level 1 on the top left-hand corner, there's an open area. If you could see, I'm not sure, I have a photo of it at the back. The foreground of this photo is exactly where this corner is. And we think this could be used as a drive-through for COVID testing, yeah, or walk-in to tents as well, as what we are so used to. And a car park below, there's about 1,500 base. There are staircases that lead up to this corner. Yeah. Looking at the plan itself, in the building itself, we had to do all the zoning, the required zoning for this very big building. So we come into emergency, we have the lab and the x-ray and the diagnosed part. We have another airlock. And what is unique about the convention center is at the concourse, there are toilets, built-in toilets, reception area, and also sort of like an airlock already built in. It's already there. We just need to modify it a little bit. So you come in from there. There are 240 beds.
2 minutes, Sumin.
Okay, 240 beds in one hall. So 3 halls, you get 720 beds. So the back corridor will be the one where the medical people will be using. And of course, we have to identify where the body hole is, the waste for throwing away, and the clean supply and extra storage on the right-hand side. Now, if I can just show you the ramp on the cursor on the bottom, that's where the ramp goes up like a U shape all the way up. I'm going to show you the next floor. We can also have a kitchen, and small offices can be converted into medical areas where they need to rest for the staff. And another floor up on the second level 2, we will have another 720 beds if need be. To the left-hand side of this level, we think we can put in ICU. That is, if it is a requirement, and I think about 80 to maybe 60 to 80 beds, because they need a little bit more space. So in totality, for two levels of the MyTech building, we could fit in about 1,500 beds. But while we were thinking of all this, we didn't want this to happen. Yeah, this is one way that we can be prepared if our country really falls into that section, you know. So I was very glad to do this with the team. Just some pictures now, just to show you before we end. These are the sizes of the hall. This one is actually right at the top where it is column free. These are the bed layouts that we fit in, a 3x3 module. Oh, I need to tell you there's a very big drop off at the front. So I think this is another covered drop off, which is very useful for heavy admissions. Yeah, another picture of it. Yeah, okay. And lastly, this is where the delivery and the unloading happens on every floor. This is as vast the area as we can have it. So thank you very much for hearing me out. And I just want to leave you one last word. For pandemic of this size, which is so global now, time is really the essence. We got to move fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sumin. That was very to show two projects in one go. That's great. Okay, before we go to the next speaker, last week there were lots of queries and also misunderstanding about provision of ventilation into quarantine and also isolation centers. So we are very fortunate to have here with us mechanical electrical engineer Yip Fook Keong. So he was tasked to make sense of all the viable ventilation system to new as well as existing buildings. So in answering that, we'll now continue to the next presenter, Engineer Yip, Managing Director of Purudin Contracts, Sdn Bhd. Please welcome Engineer Yip.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be invited by PAM to be present in this PAM online series, the design of quarantine center. I'm happy to work with a panel of very experienced architects as well. I personally, for my company, we have done a few hospitals, a couple of government hospitals and private hospitals. So in terms of the aspect of ventilations and MEE requirements to hospitals and quarantine centers, I think perhaps I can share a few of my knowledge with the panelists and the people who have joined in on this online series. So can I share the slide?
Salam, can we have the slides? Thank you.
No.
Salam.
Oh, shall I?
Yeah, you can share. You can share.
How to share?
Just click the share screen, the green button.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Okay. So in my presentation, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is in consideration of the MEE services in quarantine center due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And my next slide will be what is classification of quarantine center in relative to isolation ward center. Quarantine center is just a restriction of activities or separation of person. This is under whose classification, not my classification. So that I've been exposed to infectious agent or disease with the objective of monitoring their system and ensuring the early detection of cases. So persons who are in a quarantine are not necessarily infected. They are like normal person, but they have been exposed. So the conditions of ME services provision in terms of air conditioning, all these are different from isolation, where people are infected. Infected person should be isolated. So the design of isolation wards are different from quarantine center. So the ME services that we should be considering in planning should be a good ample ventilation. That means there must be ample air changes in the quarantine center, because anything that have ample ventilation air changes will help to dilute contaminants and viruses. So it helps to reduce the spread of the COVID-19. So another factor that we need to consider is air pressure control. Well, air pressure control means we will have to look at the relative of air pressure from one zone to the other zone. Perhaps the clean zone will have a big higher positive pressure than the I would say the infected or quarantine zone, so that the flow of air must be directly from the clean zone to the dirty zone. And of course, our architect has mentioned we need good lighting, and if possible, ample natural lighting is possible, and that helps to the patients as well. And then on top of that, of course, we have to talk about drainage and water supply as well as electrical supply. To convert an existing center into a quarantine center is not like an office building or any building that easily converted. You need to retrofit it.
Can you open to slide mode? To
Zoom up.
No, slide mode. Slide show.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right. So in terms of drainage and water supply and electrical supply is one of the factors that have to be considered, because you need clinical sink, you need water, you need drainage, as well as power for the lightings to convert it to bed wards areas that they need to be zoned. Okay, this is a typical quarantine condition of a room. The best, of course, is to have individual person quarantine into individual rooms, but sometimes it's impossible to do that. But if you can have it like a hotel room that is being converted, well, it's always to have the room as a negative pressure, the corridor as positive pressure, and the toilet or the ensuite as more negative pressure. So the flow will be from here to here. So to convert hotel room, guest room to quarantine is the best, I would say, the best ideal place to be converted. It's easier to be converted, because if you turn on the ventilation here, it will be forever negative, and the air will be flowing here. And the aircon in this unit is a standalone for the room, so they won't be recirculating throughout the whole space. So basically, your negative pressure will be containing within here and suck up from the toilet. So it is well contained if it's inside the hotel room concept. So I will share my experience on how to retrofit the temporary COVID quarantine center in the MyTech building, which my fellow Ms. Sumin presented earlier. We are fortunate to have worked with ISP Architect on this project. We were the MEG consultant on this project as well. So without ado, let me go on the first slide. Basing on this slide, which is we borrowed from ISP Architect. So the zoning is fortunate that the halls are actually basically, I would say, partition off is from the other areas. So it's quite easy to contain the quarantine patients within all this zone and maintaining the other outer zone as clean zone. So with this, also the MEG services are also basically centered between zone by zone basis. So we have basically MEG services for this zone, MEG service for this zone. So it can be controlled and monitored easily. Okay, this is a brief outline of what is being provided in the exhibition hall. In the exhibition hall, basically, it's one of the modular of the hall. There are trenches, underground trenches inside the hall. These trenches are basically provided with MEA services. The MEA services provided inside here basically are drainage point, water point, electrical outlet point, and ICT point. So these trenches can be easily cover can be taken out, and then you can just plug in any services that you want into the service trench. So basically, when you set up any beds or any quarantine center around here, your supply is all readily available. So that will minimize the so-called retrofit work to the MEG. So basically, what I show here is a trench, typical trench detail that we have provided inside the exhibition hall. So on this modular trench that we have a compressed air, electrical power, ICT, cold water, and draining. So easily that any of the services that require these services can be plugged in on a modular basis. So the next thing is how to convert the hall into a quarantine center. The hall basically is where we house the patients which are under quarantine. So this area where they are housing should be in the negative pressure mode. And like I say, the outside will be in the positive mode. And where this body hole should be even at the more negative mode, because we don't want from the body hole to go back into the quarantine area. And for the waste, of course, this will be also under more negative mode as well. And the clean, of course, it will be in a positive mode of airflow. So the condition is that you must always go from clean to dirty. The more cleaner is, the more positive pressure you should have on the airflow. Okay, the next slide I'll share here is, okay, a typical air conditioning that we have for the modular exhibition hall is we have HU on the upper part of the hall, where it supplies in the blue line is the air conditioning duct. So they will supply into all the modular halls through a few HUs around here. So this basically is a recirculating system. Like I say, quarantine center don't have to be 100% isolation ward where you need to 100% air in and you exhaust 100% out. So there is not a requirement in quarantine center. As long as the social distancing between patients are maintained within certain 2 meters apart, I think that is good enough. So the air conditioning can be still used in this sense. And to create a negative pressure here, we would suggest to put some ventilation exhaust duct near towards the patient area where we can extract some of the air out from the patient area directly, so to minimize contamination to the other areas. So when you have air being extracted out, you create a negative pressure over here, over this lobby, and then where this outside here is a clean area, air will then be transferred over to the infected or so-called dirty area. And that is our concept. So to minimize contamination within the patients, if there may be cases that some patient may be infected, but we don't know. So I would suggest HEPA filters to be provided to just be installed.
1 minute, engineer.
Okay, to be installed at the HU so that they can then filter off the viruses, because COVID-19 viruses is about 0.12 microns. HEPA filters can filter off as low as 0.1 and less. So it will help on the so-called filtration of the virus, so that you can minimize the spread of COVID-19 towards this quarantine area. I think I've finished with the slide. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Engineer Yip.
All right.
Thank you very much. There's a different whole idea that we can now understand much better. So our last presenter is a father and son duet of architect Mokhtar and graduate architect Nasrul Muhammad Mokhtar from MNR Architects Ahamad. But unfortunately, both these duet are unable to attend this webinar series due to unforeseen emergency circumstances. But their proposal was actually to use an army barrack. So there is actually a summary that will show up later. But before we do that, we also have the privilege here of our subject matter expert, Associate Professor, Architect Datin Nowina Muhammad. So please welcome Datin to actually explain some key points to wrap up before we show the concluding slide of the whole 2 webinars. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. Yeah, can you have that? Yeah. Yeah, I think my task now is just to give a very succinct definitions, and I think more towards designers, because I think you heard throughout the session, the first and the second session, words about quarantine and isolation being sort of interchangeable, and also how does it affect design. So this is from one of the literature review about what is isolation and quarantine. This is taken from the Medical Institute of Medicine, where they were doing more on the SARS at that time. So you can see here what is quarantine. I've made it into colored as well as quarantine on blue and isolation in red. So you can see here, quarantine refers to restriction of movement. So it can be single person, it can be a cohort. Okay? So it's a question of a person and who are contagious before it's known they become ill. So here it can take place in home or somewhere else. Okay. But isolation refers to separation, restricted movement of ill person who have contagious. But maybe here you're still not sure. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, I can see this now more visual. Again, this is from the Ministry of Health. The first slide is talking about generic, but here we are in Malaysia, so we always refer to the Ministry of Health guideline. You can get this also the guideline from Ministry of Health website. So it says quarantine can be in hospital or can be in a non-hospital facility, so on-site or off-site. And it talks about the purpose of this quarantine is to separate and to restrict, just like what was defined. But it can say, but it further define what is happening off-site and what is happening on-site in terms of who are the patients that is being referred to. I think most of the speakers earlier talk about if the patient goes into severity of the condition, it will be transferred to the hospital where they have ICUs and a higher level of care. Can you get the next slide? Okay, this just giving you a bit more, I think, what Engineer Yip has mentioned. So, yeah, it about how do we usually define whether the spaces that we provide is whether using negative or negative pressure in terms of the spaces. And I think most articles talk about the transmission of this virus through droplets. And basically, it can be in the air longer or that. So here you can see that we are looking to the negative pressure. So next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, here this some of the thing that, before this. Just the next slide. Yeah, here you can get this also from a Ministry of Health website about what is isolation, and then Engineer Yip also explained about the flow of air that is coming in. So you have two types. So compressive about positive, but here about negative. So you can see basically how it's being laid out within the micro space. Okay, and so you can get this also downloaded from a ministry website. Next stage, next slide, please. Okay, this is the last slide. This is about references. You can get so many references. We managed to get from our SCSR or the Acacia from China guidelines, from India guideline, and as Architect Hani talk about the WHO, where you can actually get your cert online. So the last picture here talks about a bit on that design of a pediatric center and understanding about the zoning and the phases. I think that's it. Thank you very much. All right, Michael.
Sorry. As a guide, thank you very much, Datin. As a guide, we have completed the presentations of all the 7 proposals on screen, and it's a summary. Can we have that summary slide, Salam? So this is actually from last week and also today. So this is all the 7 proposals from the 7 groups. Salam? Yep. So this is the last week there were 4. This week there's another 4. So these are the various forms and also various reasonings and also various outcomes. Okay. So thank you very much, all speakers. Now we would like to have our guests and also participants for panel discussion. So again, please post your question to the question and answer bar. And I think I have 2 questions so far down here, and I think we can go straight to the question. This one have got one of the highest voting. Okay, I think this goes to either Engineer Yip or any of the architects there. How the airlock work in MyTech between patient cells, airlock? Is the patient cell air conditioned? If yes, is the air condition unit centralized or not? I think this one better answer by Engineer Yip. You are the master designer there. Please unmute.
Okay, so basically, you can just now as Ms. Sumin has mentioned, the zoning basically they have clean zone and the exhibition hall is another zone. So basically, our air conditioning is based on zoning basis. So basically, to have the differential pressure between the airlock side and the exhibition hall side, which is under negative pressure. So what we normally do is we have the airflow in the this clean zone to be on, and we minimize the return air into the back to the air shield. So we will try to push the air back towards to the airlock and then into the quarantine zone on the exhibition hall. So the flow will be one direction. It won't be so whenever there is, because the exhibition hall already is under exhaust, so there will always be a continuous negative pressure. The moment we pressurize on the clean zone, the air will automatically be pushed into the one directional into the exhibition hall. Can I answer? Is it clear on the answer or?
Yes, I think that's very simplified and straight to the point.
But you have to do a lot of calculation to make sure that air are balanced. So there will be more. There will be probably we have to go to the design manual to look at that.
Yeah. Okay. There's another question here from William Chu. By the way, just now that question was from Su Chi Ong. This question now from William Chu is: what authorities should we cooperate with in constructing this temporary hospital for pandemic level threats? I think this question is directly going to be posed to our subject matter expert, Datin Novena. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Okay. Could we have the questions again?
Okay. What authorities should we cooperate with in constructing this temporary hospital for pandemic level threats?
I guess it's clearly demonstrated in our environment where it goes to the government, and the government has to actually do the first before we can actually act upon it. I can't say anything clearer because we are all experiencing different way of contributing to this. Like even now, our session is about doing proposals, which is not built because we do not have the actual thing. But maybe the next edition of our thing could have answers to these questions that you have raised. But basically, the government have its own mechanism of going to preparing for this pandemic. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Datin. I think there was these famous words, right? Like for instance, waiting is also humanitarian. So
yes.
we still keep on thinking, and we need to actually work together and find the better solution, and also to circumvent. I think that's why with this group of 7 and 8 with Architect Chan from Kota Kinabalu, we have the real life one. We can create that proper handbook, which Nik was trying to say. There was this e-book type. So I think it's about time that we can actually embark on those. So any other questions that would like to be answered, or any comments from the panelists on some of the answers given, or any that would you like to add?
Just to add, I think Architect Mumtazah just reminded that basically even the construction of maps is actually starting with from NADMA. So again, it's back to MKN and downline. Okay, so that can be answered also separate time. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, and I think the question and answer box also has got not any more questions. Seems that the explanation is very good, and I think from last week and this week, most of the questions are being answered, and I think the team, Alhamdulillah, can show to the public that what we can actually offer to the Malaysian public and Malaysian government, that we are here to assist. Anyway. So if we are about to finish, but the webinar session, but before we close, I think we need some tagline words from each and every of these participants. So the question is very simple. What message of the way forward you want PAM to be doing on this condition? Nik?
My response to that is assemble, teamwork, thrive, and rise together.
Thank you. Engineer Yip? Unmute. Can you please unmute?
Let's work together for this COVID.
Thank you. Architect Hani?
I just want to say the architects and architecture for emergency.
Thank you. Ms. Chan? Unmute, please. Unmute.
Okay, I'm here. Together we make COVID-19 homeless.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Architect Mumtazah, please unmute yourself too.
For me, teamwork, 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 teamwork.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much again. So we have come to actual end of the session. So before we end, please accept our sincere apologies for any of the shortcomings. However, we hope that you have gained as much from the papers and also question and answers session today as we have. And thank you for the participation, and you're being awesome participant, and have a pleasant day. But we hope to see you again at PAM online series CSR Journey, Moments with the Director General of Ministry of Health, the one and only Dato Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, on Friday, 10 July 2020 at 9 o'clock here in the morning. So please be reminded to book your digital seats the soonest. So this is the poster we have prepared. So we have a lineup of the president. We have a specialist facility expert also, Datin Wina, myself, and also Architect Mumtazah. So remember again, 10 July, Friday, 2020, 9 o'clock in the morning here. So book your digital seats as soon as possible. So be safe, stay safe, and think safety. Kita jaga kita. Salam.